What happened? I lost my Wi-Fi. I don't know what happened.
All right, we have a quorum, so we are ready to get going whenever you are.
Okay. I'd like to call this, excuse me, I'd like to call the February 16th, 2023 meeting of the Community Development to order. And as customary, let's bow our head for silence. Amen.
Amen.
Secondly, I get approval for the minutes for January 19th, 2023. If everyone have read over it, the minutes.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, it's moving second. All vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers nay. Ayes have it. We don't have any things under the old business. And under new business, we only have two items. The first item, we have an ordinance to amend section 7-14 of Article 1, Chapter 7 of the Code of the City of Charleston, South Carolina, to establish an advisory livability review board for certain code violations and abatement. Is someone going to explain that?
Yes, sir. Magali, you want me to start?
Sure.
Okay. As you all are aware, this stems from a conversation we had last year at the request of Councilman Saccharin regarding vacant buildings. Currently on the books is an ordinance of what is known as the Code Enforcement Board that deals with code issues. However, that board has been inactive since before I began with livability in 2002. So the purpose of that board was to hear the civil side, not a criminal offense, but to hear and bring individuals to the board in order to try to adjudicate their issue of some type of public nuisance, if you will. So we thought it would be better to amend this ordinance and make it more beneficial to our needs in today's issues with vacant buildings primarily. This amendment before you is an advisory livability review board. The original ordinance consisted of 8 staff members only. I thought, and I conversed with Magali, and I felt that it would be more beneficial if we had mixed staff with citizens of who had knowledge with probate and construction and engineering that could help with mitigating some of the issues with these properties. So with that, I'll just start this little PowerPoint and just explain the guts of the ordinance. But again, this is not a punitive board. This is merely a board that will assist these individuals. They will guide and communicate with the owners of these properties. It is a voluntary type of process, and it is a step before livability court or even a step while a case is active in livability court. So as you see, the advisory board, it will consist of 5 members and 2 alternates, 2 city staff members from Preservation and Housing Division. So preservation would be obviously the BAR, and Housing and Community Development. And also the 2 alternate staff members will be from Preservation, Housing, or Building Inspections Divisions. The 3 city citizens would include a general contractor, 1 attorney engaged in practices of probate, estate planning, and or real property transactions, and 1 lay person who is a member of the city's neighborhood council. So some representative of one of our neighborhoods, possibly that are affected heavily by the vacant buildings within their neighborhood, that can serve on this board as well. So the board is voluntary process designed to address the abatement of vacant structures. That'll be our primary goal, but we can also utilize this board for any public nuisance violations prior to any court action or at the determination of the judge with pending public nuisance vacant structure violations. So the difference here is our goal rather would be to educate and guide property owners with city procedures and requirements applicable to preservation, housing, or building inspection processes. So just to, in layman terms, too often have we noticed in court, a lot of these issues with vacant houses and the owners of these properties, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the guidance through the city processes with permitting and BAR. This will aid and facilitate that process of guiding the property owner with the proper tools necessary to whether it's applying for BAR, whether it's issues with permitting or whatever have you. So they'll have the city staff and their resources at hand, especially like with Gianna's group with community development, maybe some benefits from that group that can assist these individuals. Also, to educate and guide the property owners with probate, estate planning, or real property transactions. That's one of the biggest holdups for our vacant properties being rehabilitated. They remain in probate for years, and a lot of it is these people are afraid to deal with probate. They don't know. But if someone on this board would be educated and be able to guide them to the resources needed to actually file in probate or give them the guidance through that process. And thirdly would be to educate and guide property owners with general construction and structural concerns. So meaning a lot of these properties obviously need expertise in construction and engineering for stabilization and those types of issues. So with that said, I'll unshare my screen, I think. I'm trying, forgive me. Got it. Sorry about that technical issue. But that's it in a nutshell. It'll assist us. I think, I'm excited about it. It'll help with our process of vacants. We currently have a little under 200 now. I feel that we can clear up the court system with our current vacant property issues that we have in the court. And I'll leave it at you guys to discuss. And Magali, if I left anything out, please chime in.
I think you covered everything, Dan. I just wanted to add that the original code enforcement board was the appellate body to hear appeals of the city's abatement process. So in addition to its review and advisory functions, the livability review board will also hear appeals pursuant to 2164. And again, just to emphasize that this is a voluntary process to hopefully provide people with tools and resources to achieve workable solutions, except in the instances where the livability court decides to refer a matter to the livability review board, and it would also retain jurisdiction over those cases. But the idea would be to more effectively and expeditiously resolve those issues through the board.
Let me ask a question. Is anyone in the public realm will be on that board? Do we know of?
Yes, you'll have a contractor, a general contractor. You'll have an attorney in the civilian spectrum, and also the representative for one of the neighborhood associations. Or I put representative because I wanted everybody to have a fair shake in this, in the community that's dealing with it. It may not be the president themselves, but some member of one of our neighborhood associations that can is willing to serve on this board. It'll leave the opportunities wide open for us.
Okay. Any other questions from any of the committee members?
The mayor has his hand up, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay, Mr. Mayor.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Councilmember Saccharin, for kind of bringing this issue back up. And I think I've shared with y'all before that when I worked for the city in the 90s, that we had started the Code Enforcement Board. That's what we called it back then. I'm kind of sorry it went away. A question, Magali and Dan, about process. From what I remember when we first set this up in the 90s, and believe it or not, there were over 1,500 vacant properties at that time. If my memory serves me correct, maybe 1,500 to 2,000. It was a much, much bigger number. And we had a full-time staff member that we dedicated to the effort. So I'm curious who's going to staff it. But come back to that, it seems to me that most of the people that came, and I served on the board, so I remember, you know, kind of the mechanics of it, but it seemed to me most people that came to the board had actually already gotten a ticket, you know, a ticket from code enforcement that they were in violation, and we were empowered to by the municipal court to work with that citizen, try to resolve the ticket, and then if we had a good resolution, it might it was our recommendation that judge would dismiss the ticket. And otherwise, if we couldn't resolve it, then they still had to go to livability court and face the maximum fine or whatever the city could do. So is that part of this process as you see it, Magali or Dan?
Yes, that is still part of the process, but we've added the option for people to participate in that process before a ticket's even issued. So you get a letter from the board inviting you to participate in this process. And you know, if people ultimately choose not to do that, then the citation would be issued and the judge could very well send you back to livability review.
Okay, well, that's good. Are you going to have a dedicated staff person to this?
No, what we're going to do is our two officers that serve, well, their primary function is for vacant houses.
Yeah.
So they're already staff that are doing this, but going straight to court. This will circumvent the court system and clear it up and allow them, they will be making the contact with the property owner because they're the case agent. They'll be making the notification for them to voluntarily appear.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to, then unfortunately we'll have to issue them a court summons. But the purpose of this, well, obviously is to try to expedite these vacant houses becoming rehabilitated, but also to clear out the court system. The way it was before, it was still clogging the system. You still have open cases. So this would kind of be a relief valve, if you will, for those types of cases in our court now.
Right, gotcha. So I'm sorry, Councilmember Saccharin, to have so many things. On the citizen, the layperson who is a member of the City of Charleston Neighborhood Council, I hate to admit, I'm not sure the exact qualification to become a member of the City of Charleston Neighborhood Council, and that could be a little restrictive. I think if we had a layperson, you know, who is interested in this issue, it doesn't matter to me whether they're a member of a particular council or not. I'd like to see us make that a little broader. And then I had one other thing, but I can't think of it, and I'm taking too much time already. So I'll think of it in a minute.
And that was probably my steering Magali towards the counsel, meaning the concept on my part was someone that referring to neighborhood council would be one of our neighborhood councils and one of those citizens within that neighborhood. So we can make it broader, and that's fine. But I
Gotcha.
was trying to clarify that it would be somebody from our existing codified, if you will, neighborhood councils.
Right.
Any other questions?
Councilmember Saccharin and then Councilmember Waring
Okay.
have their hands up.
All right, Councilman Saccharin first and Councilman Waring afterwards.
Thank you, Chairman. And thanks, Dan, and thanks.
Magali?
Magali.
I feel like it's been so long ago that we got back to it. So I appreciate y'all working on this. I guess, Dan, I need to understand. So this is going to be about a process where we've got an advisory board that's going to be educating those homeowners, talking with those homeowners, having a resource for those homeowners to kind of lean into if they have questions. My issue, and that's wonderful. I think this is part of the solution. My question is really about the back end court system that seemed to have been the holdup. And I use the Maple Street, the woman next door to me as an example, as kind of my litmus test. How would this help with that situation at 80 Maple Street where she ignored summons, she continued to live at the house, she was in livability court, was fined, but I'm not sure if there was any kind of punitive or kind of real leverage we could have gotten with her. I guess my question is about the the court aspect of this. What is that?
Well, that's a perfect example. She's been in court and issued summons on several different occasions. Some of those were dismissed and we're right back where we started from. She's back in court, to be honest with you. We have another open case with her. So to try to expedite the process, often we see in court the judge just admonishes them to, hey, go take care of this, but there's no really guidance. And I'm not faulting the judge, but there's no really guidance for them. If we have an avenue now that we can kind of put these experts that we have at our disposal to give them that guidance along with our staff members. I'll blame bureaucracy as well. I mean, we may not, we may think that somebody knows what to do if they walk over to 2 George, but with these cases, I'm trying to put the focus on the ones that are most difficult and the ones that seem to be controversial, the ones that seem to have the most obstacles to overcome. I'm just trying to lessen the burden for these folks and to help and guide them kind of, I would say seamlessly, but we know that's not true, but try to seamlessly guide them through this process.
And my follow-up to that is, so, for example, when the fire department was coming out and they were putting the do not habitate or cannot habitate, I had heard from them that that's all they could do. So they would put that on the front of the house. The person would come back to the house. I'm not sure how this addresses someone that is just flat out ignoring the rule of law and ruling the city. That's what I'm still trying to understand.
So could I respond to that, Mr. Chairman? Well, without objection. So this is from my memory of being on this board back in the 90s also, council member. You're absolutely right. There's some citizens, even with work going to the board, then going to court, getting fined as much as we could fine them, they did nothing. And so at that point, we had to rely on our demolition. Of course, right now, I think Dan has the ability and a little bit of a budget, like if a vacant house was unsecured, he can go put plywood on the windows and board it up and secure it in that way. And that doesn't cost a whole lot of money. We put a little lien on the property. The next step, the next higher step is demolition by neglect. And we had some of those cases where the city spent $100,000 on a vacant property just to structurally shore it up so it wouldn't fall over, and then secure it as well. It didn't renovate it, it didn't make it habitable, but it at least prevented the structure from falling down and being a public hazard. And frankly, we haven't funded that kind of reserve to be proactively doing a lot of demolition by neglect repairs, because it was quite often, and even back in the 90s, that those, whenever we called that up, that it would cost $50,000 to $100,000 per property in order to at least get it in a safe condition. That, and once again, that didn't make it livable or look nice. It just, prevented a health hazard, basically.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Waring?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just in thinking of adding, maybe being broad and adding somebody to the committee. I wonder if we can get somebody from Center for Heirs Property to be a member on a committee like this, because sometimes a lot of the dilapidated properties, a lot of times you've got as heirs property. So I think that person may, if we can convince somebody from that portion of the community to be a part, not only would they could maybe help intervene and help that family clear the title up on a cost-effective means and lead to a better resolution. I think that would just maybe be good if we can have that mindset on the committee.
I think we already have that with the attorney. The Center for Heirs Property are
Right.
mostly attorneys that deal with probate law, and that is one of the board members will be that attorney that has the knowledge with probate, estates, and real estate or real property transactions. So that could be a member if they so chose to you join the board.
Right. Yeah, I know it had to be a volunteer type thing.
Right.
Or the person that, well, the staff people who tend to reach out to families. I don't know. It could be the attorney. It could be another staff level person that has more interaction with actually people, and then
Right.
it's referred to the attorney later on. But
Yeah, we chose to keep it kind of that broad instead of saying somebody from the heirs, Center for Heirs Property versus an attorney that is, practices that attorney practices in this type of law that can facilitate it.
Good. Y'all have already thought about it. Good thinking.
So I'm just thinking out loud and remembering things now that we're talking about this. We're going to have to put a little budget. We may not be able to do it till 24, but we need to put a little budget for this operation, because I remember we had to hire like engineering reports sometimes, and for those kinds of properties, Councilmember Saccharin, that we were suspicious that it might be unstable. So we had to pay an engineer to give us a report. The property owner was doing nothing. So we were proactive about those things. And sometimes if it was appropriate and we got a demolition permit, we'd go ahead and pay a contractor to do the demolition and put a lien on the property, and that kind of thing. So to do those, to do those kinds of things, we got to fund this with a little bit of a budget. It doesn't have to be huge, but I would say in a year's time, if you're dealing with a number of properties, $100,000 or $200,000 isn't going to be unreasonable for those kinds of expenses.
Yeah, my current budget for dealing with those types of issues is about 25,000.
Yeah.
But it would need more.
Mr. Chairman, remember maybe a year or so, maybe a little more, wasn't it the U.S. Army Navy store right there on the corner of King and Spring. Remember
Spring.
the threat of falling into the street? Owner wouldn't respond. And I think, didn't we have to go and actually do some shoring up and do the same thing you just said, Mr. Mayor, put a
That's
lien
on,
on it for our
On
expenses?
Reed Brothers.
Reed
Reed Brothers, that's what it
Yeah,
was.
we've got a lien on that property.
Right, but we kind of did some of the same thing that you talking about doing. We've done it before, so.
That's right. I think we used some emergency funds for that particular case,
Right,
but, and we can do that again if a property gets to that point, but it makes sense. 25 isn't enough if you're gonna be
yeah,
proactive,
I agree with you, we need a budget. for that.
proactive about this.
Yeah,
Once again, back in the 90s, it was a lot worse than it is today. But anyway, I'm all for trying to resolve the last couple of hundred. And the real estate market is such in Charleston, if there's a property that can be habitable and provide housing for somebody at some level, we ought to try to make it habitable.
yeah, I agree.
All right. Any other questions? Councilman Appel, you have a question? No? Good on that one. Anyone else? Councilman Parker, you there? Any question?
No, she's not here.
She's not here? Okay, so we have enough of a quorum anyway, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. Okay, well, anyone that want to make a motion? We have to have a motion on this particular one. That we proceed.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, it was moving second, all vote by favor by saying aye. Or just nay, the ayes have it. And we have one more issue on there. Come on.
Thank y'all.
All righty.
Thank you,
Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank
Chair
you.
Mitchell, the next item is not,
Update on, okay, go ahead. Update
Chairman
on
Mitchell,
Charleston.
yes.
Yeah, Hope Center, on the Hope Center.
Yes, we just wanted to provide City Committee of City Council an update regarding the work that the Hope Center is currently doing at 529 Meeting Street. We have Latasha Jenkins Flood, who is the Hope Center Director, and also share with you the progress being made toward the new center. So I will ask Latasha to share with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm trying to work on my computer at the same time, so y'all got to forgive me.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Latasha Jenkins Flood, and I'm the director here at the Hope Center. I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me okay, and that you are able to see the presentation that I just shared on the screen. Awesome. Thank you. So this is going to be the presentation for the Hope Center. 1 second. So the new site for the Hope Center is going to be located at 9 Cunningson Avenue here in the upper part of the peninsula. What you're looking at on this first screen is a rendering of what the center looks like from an aerial view. And if there are any questions as I go through the slide, please feel free to stop me and ask. If there are no additional questions, I will go on to the next slide. The next slide is also the land parcel for the new center that we are going to have. I don't have a date when we're going to break ground, but I thought it was important for you to have a visual of what the space will look like. And for those of us that are not familiar with the Hope Center is a one-stop resource center that opened on June 6th of last year. The purpose of the Hope Center is to provide comprehensive wraparound services for the chronically homeless, along with individuals and families at risk of being homeless. The mission of the Hope Center is to connect our neighbors with support services that promotes wellness, wholeness, and stability. The vision of the center is to serve as a collaborative community resource center where we will provide comprehensive services to those who are homeless or at risk of being homeless. And the values that we have here at the center are respect, compassion, safety, inclusivity, and service. One common question that we receive from the public is how do you define homelessness? And based on HUD, there are actually 4 categories of homelessness. Category 1 is a person that's literally homeless. In order to be considered literally homeless, that means that it has to be an individual or a family who's living in a place not meant for human habitation. This includes living in their cars, living on their streets, living in transitional housing, or hotels paid for by a government or a charitable organization. Category 2 is persons or individuals at risk for being homeless. Those are individuals or families who will lose their primary nighttime residence within 14 days, and they have no additional resources or support networks to obtain permanent housing. Category 3 is homeless under other statutes. This means any youth that's under the age of 25 years old that's unoccupied, or families with children and youth who do not meet any of the other categories but are homeless under federal statutes, have not had a lease, or have moved 2 or more times in the past 60 days, and are likely to remain unstable because of special needs or barriers. And last but not least, category 4 is people who fall into the category of domestic violence. Individuals or families who are fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking, who don't have the resources or support networks available to obtain permanent housing. The next slide is an overview picture of homelessness in South Carolina in our community. The numbers that I'm presenting come from the 2022 South Carolina State of Homelessness Report for the HMIS system. And for those of you that are not familiar with HMIS, that's an overview database system that captures all of the data that as it relates to the homeless populations. From October 2020 until September 30th, 2021, we had exactly 13,399 persons that were served in the HMIS system. For the point in time count for last year, we had 3,608 persons. From the Veterans Affairs, their data on homelessness, those numbers were 2,388. For the McKinney-Vento data, those are children who live in the school, who are members of the Charleston County School District who are actually experiencing homelessness. From October the 1st of 2020 until September 30th, 2021, we had 2,834 unsheltered students. And for participants in the PATH program, that's a program designed as an outreach for people with severe mental illness who are unhoused. Those numbers were 874. For homeless people who were involved with the Department of Corrections from July of 2020 until June 30th of 2021, we had 9,790 people. And for participants who contacted the 211 hotline from October the 1st until September 30th of 2001, the hotline received exactly 37,183 calls for homeless prevention assistance and 5,219 calls for homeless services. For homeless prevention, this next slide, for the persons that were served by organizations funded through the city of Charleston for the years of 2021 through 2022, for ShelterNet, we had 44 persons that we were able to serve. For 180 Place, we were able to assist them with funding for 191 people. For Charleston Pro Bono Legal Services, that number was 70. For the Navigation Center, that number was 1,749 persons. For Neighbors Together, that number was 10 people through the CARES Act Fund. And through Palmetto Community Action Partnership, that number was 20, also through the CARES Act funds. And finally, the persons that were served through Palmetto Community Care and Roper St. Francis Ryan White Clinic was 593, which brings us to a grand total of 2,677 persons. As we move along, the unsheltered neighbors that we had encountered by the City of Outreach Homeless Outreach Team between June 2021 and May 21 of 2022, our outreach staff had 666 encounters with unhoused individuals. Of those encounters, 128 of them were new, and 472 people out of this population had been at least encountered once before by a representative. As we move further along, the Hope Center works very closely with the school district, in particular the McKinney-Vento program. The McKinney-Vento program is a program that's dedicated at the school district specifically to work with families who are homeless or at risk of being homeless. And as you can see from the slide, the youth, according to their definition, is anyone that's 18 years or younger that does not have a fixed regular nighttime residence, that's living quote unquote doubled up in shelters, transitional housing, hotels or motels, or places not meant for humans to stay. For the year of 2021 through 2022, we had 274 homeless students. And from July 2022 until the current, we have 289 students. Currently, we help, and the school district helps about 289 homeless students through the McKinney-Vento program. As we move further along, here are some additional floor plans for what the new Hope Center is going to look like. The total square footage for the center is going to be 9,000 square feet. For the floor plan on level 1, that's going to consist of the receptionist area, our security. It's also going to serve as a double option for flex space when we have inclement weather and when we have to have a place for the unhoused to come. When it gets too cold or we have other inclement weathers. In addition to that, we're also going to have this space surrounded by different office space, kitchen areas, some closet space, and some other service providers. And as we go on to floor plan number 2, we will have our service providers located in this space. We will also have our medical providers such as Federal Healthcare Network and the Sheepa Clinic there, as well as a variety of other service partner organizations that we currently partner with, in addition to city staff offices for current Hope Center employees. Some of the services that we offer at the center are as follows, but before I get into those in detail, from the date that we opened until February of yesterday, we have helped exactly 310 people at the Hope Center. Some of the services that we offer here are showers, laundry, clean clothing, food, respite from adverse weather, access to a social worker, access to free government cell phones, access to housing and housing referrals, along with access to healthcare. And we also plan in the very near future to go further along with the mission by providing employment, financial and budgeting classes, legal assistance, and behavioral health services. The reason that the provision of services is so important to the unhoused population is because we want to eliminate any additional barriers that they may have in order to promote self-sufficiency. So instead of having a person who may need a telephone or who may need housing go to 10 different buildings, the goal of the center is to have everything located in a one-stop shop resource center, which is us. And then as those clients come in and get that needed assistance, if we have to refer them out, we do so on a limited basis or as needed. Some of the collaborative partners that we currently partner with are the City of North Charleston, Coastal Community Church, Federal Healthcare Network, ShelterNet, 180 Place, Palmetto Project, Pro Bono Legal Services, Palmetto Community Action, the Sheepa Clinic, Seacoast Church, the Rotary Club of Charleston, the Continuum of Care, and Trident United Way. As the Hope Center continues to establish itself in the community and determine how we can better serve our clients, one thing that we've been thinking about is how will we move forward strategically? And what you're looking at right now is a SWOT analysis where we basically assess our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and the threats that we have at the present moment and how we can move forward. Some of the strengths that we have here at the Hope Center is we subscribe to the Housing First model, which is also something that's done by the federal government and our counterparts. We provide comprehensive wraparound services in one location. We also provide cross-sector collaboration and knowledge with other service providers. And we also can assist with funding for housing assistance. Some of the additional opportunities that we have are rental and utility assistance. We provide respite from adverse weather conditions, and we work to establish systems to ensure that homelessness is brief and non-occurring. Some of the weaknesses we have at the moment is we have limited funding for financial assistance requests. We have limited provider capacity, and we have inadequate client incomes. Also, the Hope Center at the present moment is not a place where clients can come and sleep overnight. That's also a consideration for weakness. And some of the threats that the center has is we have limited availability of housing, we have landlord discrimination, we have unaddressed client mental health, and we have a lack of community capacity. So how do we move forward? We achieve long-term success by providing comprehensive wraparound services using evidence-based practices. We maintain and enhance our collaborative partnerships. We engage the community as a partner in the provision of services and operation of the center. And we ensure that our staff members have the technical expertise needed to provide innovative solutions to challenges faced by the client. We share the story of the center, and we continue to raise capital to support the programs and services that we currently provide. If you would like additional information on the Hope Center or how you can contribute financially to our organization, please see the below link at homelesstohopefund.org. And if there are no additional questions, thank you for your time, and this will conclude my presentation.
Oh, thank you very much for that presentation. You did a lovely job.
Thank you, Councilman Mitchell.
All righty. So anyone have any questions?
Well, Councilman Mitchell, I do.
All righty.
I mean, I think that was that's a great presentation,
Thank you,
Natasha.
Councilman Waring. Thank you.
You did a great job. Let me ask this. Obviously, we got a lot of concentration on the peninsula, but we have not developing a pretty large homeless problem in West Ashley. It's more hidden, frankly, because I think you got more wooded area. But we've been getting some pretty good complaints from, in particular, off the West Ashley Greenway. But it's just popping up more and more. So obviously, it's going to be difficult to get that part of our community over to the Hope Center to take a shower. Are we, even on the drawing board, thinking about having a facility one day West Ashley? I mean, which is the largest portion of the population.
Councilman Waring, I'll let Gianna answer that first question, and I'll come back and piggyback off of her response. Gianna.
Councilmember Waring, at the moment, no, but we do have partners, West Ashley currently. Department of Mental Health is there, and our outreach team, as well as our police department, are becoming more active because we are seeing an increase in the number of folks on the streets. Much of that is contributed to, or we contribute a portion of that to when the moratorium was ended. A number of people have lost their housing. We are finding, especially with women and children, that number is higher. Unfortunately, we're not able to count them because they are living either with a relative or a friend. And in the world of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, when you are in a house, even if it's not your own, you are not literally counted as homeless. So we're trying to be more proactive about addressing those areas, as you indicated, West Ashley behind the Food Lion. We found them near the Costco. And so we have a process in place currently with our outreach workers and with the police department, where those individuals are given notices and given referral cards where they can reach out to partners who can help them transition out of homelessness. And where appropriate, our recreation department has been very helpful in helping us transport those who need particular services from time to time. In addition, Carter also provides our Hope Center bus passes. So our outreach team can literally, if they're willing to get to the center or they need to get to an agency that we've referred them to, we will give them a bus pass so that they can get there.
Okay. Yeah, I was told recently, we had a meeting with Mr. Palacios, I guess about a month or so ago, well, 6 weeks ago. And behind his Home 2 Suites Hotel and behind the Holiday Inn Express, he and that owner putting up a larger fence because there's apparently a pretty large encampment back there off of the Greenway. They actually break into the cars and the patron cars in the hotel parking lot. And they've even found them when people exit the hotel before the door can close, they'll slip in the hotel and run up the stairwell and things like that. So it is a serious issue.
And certainly if that's happening, hopefully they're reporting that to our police department. There are certain things that our outreach team will address and others they won't. simply because they don't want to approach it if some level of a crime is being instituted. But we
Right.
do work really closely with the police so that those issues that are apparent and that are out there that our outreach team can address, they can handle those, whereas the police have to handle the more serious items.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, any other questions? Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Latasha, that was a great report, and y'all, Latasha's doing an incredible job helping those in need. And I think y'all know, even though we just kind of rebranded as the Hope Center, we've been operating out of 529 Meeting Street for a few years now, prior as the Navigation Center, now as the Hope Center. And so I did want to give a brief report to y'all that the efforts are moving forward quite well, I think, for us to build that new Hope Center up on Cunnington Avenue, thanks to LS3P's pretty amazing donation of full architectural services all the way down to construction documents at no charge. We are nearing completion of design and construction documents to where we can get a bona fide quote on building the building. And they've been working with Trident Construction, who again at no charge has been working to come up with an estimate. I think Gianna ought to have that estimate in the next week or so. They've been working on that the last couple of months after we finished the programming exercise, so to speak, of what we wanted to have in the building. And we had yet another fundraising meeting last week, and we're now about $5.7 million of our $7 million goal. So we're really getting close. We had a $500,000 commitment made just this past week. And so we're about $1.5 million off of having the funds in place to be able to construct, assuming the budget meets what our projections were early on. So we'll be able to reconcile that pretty soon. So anyway, if everything goes as planned and we able to commit the rest, get commitments on the rest of the funding, I'm hopeful we'll be able to break ground this fall, certainly before the end of the year, and get permitted and get underway. And you know, Amy's going to look at, you know, when we get the more exact pricing on the building and over the next couple of months, hopefully resolve any other outstanding commitments. We may come back to council one more time to ask for some ARPA funds to help balance the project on out and get it going. But I just want to give you all a heads up. It won't be it won't be huge, but it may be something. But we're getting real close, and the generosity of some of the people involved has been really terrific. Just wanted to share that.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, one, what portion of the property out of the lots we purchased, where is this going to be located on the site, Mayor, Ms. Shaw Johnson?
It's
So 9 Cunnington is next door to 11 Cunnington Avenue on Cunnington Avenue area. So it's on the,
Yeah, I got you.
yes.
I know. I remember what that is. Thank you.
And I'll mention while I have the mic, if you will, that we did release bids last year for the construction of the apartments on Cunnington Avenue. So
Right.
we're excited that we have
That's
proposals back into our procurement office, and we'll review those tomorrow with a committee of team members and council members. So we're excited about that as well.
That's great. Thanks for adding that, because that's what I was thinking about. I know got the shelter, but where were the apartments going?
yeah, right
Not,
there.
not in the middle of the property.
Yeah, no, it's towards the side. Absolutely.
No, it's a large piece of property. We went,
Right.
you know, it's pretty large.
Okay.
It's pretty large, but we're gonna end up developing that pretty tightly, and the way it's shaped, this Hope Center really snugs in next to 11 and has a graveyard right behind it, and that leaves the bigger part of the property, the more the bigger rectangle, so to speak, for the affordable housing portion of the development.
Got you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Right. Any other questions? We're moving along. Councilman Appel, you pretty quiet?
Anybody wants to donate to the Hope Center, we're gladly accepting any checks or contributions. Just let everybody know.
Chairman Mitchell, Jason bet me $100 I couldn't go a whole meeting without talking, and I'm cashing in.
Okay. All right. I don't have no problem with that. I'm not saying a thing.
Meeting's not over yet. Not over yet.
All right. Well, if you don't have any other questions, I
move we adjourn. How about that?
That's, all right.
Good work, everybody. Great efforts on both fronts.
All right. Take care.
Thank you all
everyone.
for your time.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you.